Listen up, ladies. Get the tampons out of your ears and wake the fuck up. My name is Brigadier General First Class Abigail Thorne. I have been with the best of the best into the worst of the worst, and you motherfuckers are the sorriest looking podcast audience I have ever seen. But don't worry. Over the next 90 minutes, me and my squad of killers will turn you into hard dick war machines. My IC on this operation is Captain Caldwell Kelly, and you will not so much as take a shit without her say so. Giving us a lift to the theatre of operations as usual, from His Majesty's Royal Navy, it's Admiral Devon, and all the way from the Australian SAS Boonta Vista Regiment, it's Lieutenant Andrew Law.
What?
Fucking hell.
I'm Tenning and I'm Hudson.
Captain Caldwell Kelly, you may carry on.
Takes me right back. That does to the
takes me back too.
Yeah, to the steely-eyed battalion of killers that was the Dulwich College Combined Cadet Force Army Section.
Oh, my word. It takes me back to the NRGS CCF as well. Good times. Listeners, I just want you to know that as I'm wrapping this blanket around you and feeding you chocolate, even though I shouted at you in the opening, I still respect you.
Yeah, this is the podcast that gives you aftercare.
Mm-hmm. Even though I put that butt plug in you and called you a filthy trap slut, it's because I love you.
Abigail, you have to stop. I won't be able to record the rest of the podcast. We watched The Rock.
I'm just sort of also here. This is good.
Also Devon and Andrew just here.
I'm just imagining a drill sergeant just taking one guy aside and going, "Hey, I didn't mean any of that. Like, I think you're a great guy. We get along really well."
Yeah, actually, yeah.
I know
actually,
I give you a
that's
hard
nothing
time in front
personal.
of
I was
guys,
mainly
but
talking to the other
you're my
guys. Yeah.
favorite.
Just ignore when I talk like that. Just ignore it. Just ignore it. It's a work thing. I got a lot going on at home.
Oh my god, we watched The Rock, is what we did.
We did.
Which is a Michael Bay movie. Which is the most troops respectingest Michael Bay gets for a while.
It was an odd choice to get Michael Bay to direct the next Bond film, but I think it kind of worked actually.
Because the thing is, this is a Bond film. This is a mainline Bond film. It is. It's in the canon. This is a Bond film, and we're not brooking any kind of opposition on that. We will tolerate no insubordination on this line that this is a Bond film. So it's. I mean. So the thing about this movie is that it starts with about an hour's worth of extremely bombastic music that does not stop.
Yes.
And I just like you to know that this movie won the Oscar in its year for best sound. Best sound.
All those explosions, they don't pay for themselves.
That's true.
Most sound.
But like, yeah, won the Oscar for loudest movie. Because we see the opening montage that Ed Harris is a Marine general, General Hummel, who has a dead wife, so jot that one down. He has a Medal of Honor, and he has pressed F to pay his respects to his men far too many times. We see a lot of like sort of rain-speckled like military funerals.
My notes say real men don't use umbrellas.
That's right. He gets wet. You get a wet Ed Harris.
I want to note one thing at the start that promised me such a movie. He goes to a headstone.
Yes. Yes,
and upon that headstone is the name of a woman, and at the top it says his wife. Now they wouldn't do that unless he was also buried there. So which leads me to believe that is literally directly for the audience.
Yeah, dead wife.
Either that or Ed Harris is planning to be buried next to, like, he's already planning his own death.
We see him sort of write his death poem because he puts his Medal of Honor on her tombstone and then kisses it. And then sets out on this course where, in order to take revenge against the government that has shunned him and his men, he is going to do a bit of domestic
Just a little. I
terrorism.
don't think it's for fun.
Just
This
a
is what
bit.
happens when you
It's
don't
for
respect the
business.
troops.
It's domestic terrorism for business.
Well, no, for
Yeah.
honor, yes.
For fun and
He's
profit.
claiming it back.
Yeah, and so he perpetrates this raid. He and his men. He has a bunch of other Marines who are with him and who like trust him implicitly. And together they launch a raid of the U.S. naval arsenal, where they incapacitate the guards by means of like tranquilizer darts and punching them, and they throw one guy out of a guard tower, like the joke
That's because
about
they respect the
Nazis.
troops. They're not killing anybody.
But the point, yeah,
Right.
exactly. That's the first thing that, bro, more or less the first thing that you know about General Hummel, Ed Harris, is that he has this big sort of craggy military face, and he is a man of honor who
What a
respects
face.
the troops. And as such, because he respects them so much, he's only going to punch them unconscious.
He's definitely the most morally
he and
conflicted
his men.
of any Michael Bay villains. Apparently, Don Simpson.
That's true.
Don
That's
Simpson
true.
Yeah.
partly based the character on real life person David Hackworth, who
Yeah, a huge piece of shit, by the way.
but who was a guy who came back and said, "Hey, why'd you guys spray me with Agent Orange while I was over there? What was up with that?" And then he died of the whole Agent Orange.
The thing about David Hackworth is that, he did do that, but also he also drove the head of the U.S. Navy to suicide at one point by bullying him, which is interesting guy, sort of a
Critical support.
very sort of foundational to the POW MIA sort of myth that there are Americans who have been left
So he
behind
didn't
in
do
Vietnam,
aftercare, is what we're saying.
which was then sort of discredited. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so this was the thing that Don Simpson kind of like half heard about and like incorporated was what about these forgotten soldiers? And so these men, they infiltrate the naval arsenal. They respect the hell out of the troops until they respect them unconscious, and they steal a load of missiles filled with VX gas, which is a nerve agent. And in the course of this, we see the VX gas itself, and it's this kind of like it's contained in like what would you call this? Like an orb, like a little orb,
Yeah,
a
it's
little green orb.
Like a long string of
If I were writing
pearls.
a movie, I would call it an elegant string of pearls configuration.
Definitely.
An elegant string of pearls configuration.
Rolls off the tongue.
But in order to establish the danger of this VX gas, obviously one of them has to like drop it. So a guy drops a thing of VX gas. The others immediately like seal him in the room. And we see him like die horribly. But in sort of this very Michael Bay way, he has just like adapted an already horrible thing to make it more horrible. So like VX gas is a nerve agent, right? And nerve agent's very, very unpleasant. You just kind of like leak out of every orifice. The medical acronym for this is sludge, by the way, which is a fun time. But instead, what they do is they make it a vesicant. They make it a blister agent. And so this guy starts like his skin melts off essentially. As he is like begging his friends for help through this door, and they can do nothing for him.
If I was stealing nerve agent gas, I would have worn a mask. You know.
Yeah, I would.
R.I.P. to this
probably-
guy, but I'm different.
Nobody in this movie ever wears a gas mask, which means I'm docking it a full letter grade for CBRN protection. So this one guy dies, but otherwise they make their escape with the elegant string of green pearls of VX gas.
As Bond movie openings go, this is good. Like, it's good. It's got a good action.
Here's the thing: it would
meet the
be
villain.
if it didn't have music fucking blaring all over it. Like you can barely hear the dialogue. I literally wrote down at one point, imagine if action movies had stayed this way. And just like
Just trumpets.
Yeah, absolutely. But so
It's the same music that's in like every other Jerry Bruckheimer produced music. Like there's sections of it that sound completely identical to most of Pirates of the Caribbean. All of the bits in
sort of
like
mournful patriotic horns.
particularly the like dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun. Like
Yeah.
that shit is in
It's very
every
fascinating.
Michael Bay
Pirates of the Caribbean.
/ Jerry Bruckheimer type movie, to the point where I often find myself going, is this literally the same music, as opposed to just like the same board composer.
Coward have a leitmotif. Real men just write the same music.
Absolutely.
They steal this VX gas and they steal 16 rockets to launch it from. I
think they only get away with 15 because of the one that the guy drops. But they take these rockets, and then we have to meet our protagonist. Nicolas Cage is appearing in this movie, and you better believe he is appearing the fuck out of it.
God, yes, he is, baby.
He's just having an interesting time. He's playing FBI agent Stanley Goodspeed.
Such a good name.
Dr. Christmas Type Pussy, yeah.
Dr. Christmas Type Pussy. And the thing about Dr. Christmas Type Pussy is that this movie has to, he's an FBI agent, but they can't decide whether he is or not. Because the important thing about him is that he's a giant pussy. About everything except chemical weapons, his field. Otherwise, he's just this weird nerd. And the way that we're introduced to him is him ordering a Beatles LP in the office. Because, listen, I mean...
First of all, it's because I'm a Beatlemaniac.
Very glad you got that. I wrote that down verbatim. It's like,
first of all,
character traits A, Beatlemaniac.
Beatlemaniac, and his girlfriend does not think that you should spend $600 on a vinyl record, which I agree, the struggle is real.
Neither of these things come up again.
Girlfriends do be saying you shouldn't spend too much money on things.
On a vinyl record, specifically. Yeah, no, exactly.
I've got a lot of small plastic models myself.
It sounds better. But again, this is a trait that Nicolas Cage just introduced because he was getting into vinyl records at this point. And that's the best philosophy of acting ever, is just like, hey, what if this guy was like me? And I just got to introduce my own weird shit here.
Yeah, I mean, fucking go for it. That rules, honestly.
Yeah. So we have to see Nicolas Cage do his chemical weapons thing, right? So a suspicious package has come in addressed to a Bosnian refugee camp.
It just says in big letters on it, "Aid for Bosnia." And you're
and not nerve gas.
Promise this is safe.
And they think it might be sarin gas. So he and his assistant, who is an even bigger pussy than he is, suit up in their sort of Andromeda strain suits and go into a gas chamber with this thing to open it up. And I distinctly remember that this scene gave me a panic attack when I watched this movie as a kid. And let me tell you, that does not remain the case now. This is the silliest bullshit I've seen in a while.
It's quite competently shot and tense.
Well, the thing about being a kid is you're very stupid medically. Yes. That's the medical condition that you're in childhood, is being very, very suggestively moronic. And so I was just I think I envisioned this as being a million times more terrifying than it actually is. What actually happens is they go in, they look at the thing, and dumbass assistant moves like a Beanie Baby bear that immediately begins to spray the entire chamber with sarin gas.
I identify with the guy who was just kind of goofing around in there. Oh, I'm a baby. I'm a baby. Yeah. I feel that.
It's like a little doll. Yeah, and it sprays liquid sarin on both of them. And it starts melting their suits. And
that's bad,
but then we have to ratchet up yeah, that's bad. The guy says it's bad. He goes up to the window and he's like, "Hey, this is melting my suit, and then it's gonna melt me. And when it melts me, I'm gonna die. That's really bad."
Absolute Trolls 2 level.
Even one of the guys in the lab almost turns to the audience. He goes, "We're not gonna make it."
We're not gonna make it
because there's also a bomb.
Yeah, there's also a bomb. They really doubled down on this one fucking doll, right? Because they put a shitload of sarin gas in there and some C4. And so as he's trying to disarm the C4, he's being melted by the sarin. Yeah. You'd kind of kill anyone who was going to be near to the bomb. But anyway,
overachieving.
Yes, they introduce another sort of a Chekhov's big needle here, because pussy assistant is then told, okay, this thing is melting your suit. What you must do immediately is stab a big fucking hole in that suit with this comically large needle
You gotta
and
stab this needle the whole way into your heart, and he goes,
Into
I
your
don't
heart?
want to do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like-
He's like, how would I even? What if I miss? And they don't address this, but you have to inject this big thing of atropine directly into your heart, otherwise you will die of sarin gas exposure.
Now, apparently, among the people who did uncredited rewrites of the script for this movie, Aaron Sorkin and Quentin Tarantino, who also wrote a very
He loves a big needle.
loves a big needle in the
He
heart,
does.
you know, and it comes back up again in this movie. So maybe it was him.
Absolutely. Maybe it was. Maybe he just really wanted to get some like needle in the heart action.
Yeah, I did question why there was that scene halfway through where Nicolas Cage just put his feet very close to the camera, like 5 full minutes.
Now I'm imagining Quentin Tarantino like really trying to get the COVID vaccine like too hard.
No, in the chest. In the chest. Has to
You
go
got
in
a
the
bigger
sternum.
needle.
So Nicolas Cage disarms the bomb and saves both him and Pussy Assistant, who doesn't come back in again. And this is just sort of portrayed as his like everyday sort of like busy like day at the office thing.
Yeah, he
Saving the
does
world.
that, and then it immediately cuts to him
Shirtless.
shirtless with a guitar, just sort of in like the evening sun. And I was like, okay, all right, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And this is
And
because
not-
Nicolas
Hell yeah,
Cage
baby.
was like learning the guitar at the time, and he just thought, you know what, I want to do this. You know.
This guy's like the reverse Harold Sakata.
Yeah, absolutely. Just Nicolas Cage just imposing by force of will a bunch of Nicolas Cage
I just returned
things
to the
on this
music for
movie.
a second, the blaring music.
Please.
So
Absolutely.
I've just had a little discovery here, which has been very revealing, but also has made me lose a significant amount of respect for composer Hans Zimmer, who is the person who did this movie. And he also did, as part of the Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer produced movies, he did the score for Days of Thunder, for Crimson Tide, for The Rock, for Black Hawk
Yep,
Down, for Pearl Harbor.
Yep, remember that one? The little like ood. Yep.
For the King Arthur movie by Antoine Fuqua. What? Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, The Lone Ranger. Oh, and these are all of
When
the
you
ones.
said this
The
was
Lone
part of his like
Ranger, Jesus.
part of this like Simpson Bruckheimer thing, I thought you were going to say as part of like a court ordered like parole deal.
He has to
Hans
do the
Zimmer
music for
agreed
this.
Yeah.
to score the movie The Rock.
Yeah, you ran into his car, and now you have to be his composer.
Yeah, they send you to like driver's ed, but instead it's the movie The Rock.
And he also was either the like producer on the soundtrack or composer for a bunch of Michael Bay specific stuff, including several of the Transformers movies, which also have effectively identical music. And 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of
He just bang out
Benghazi.
some tunes. Yeah.
could
Fantastic! Incredible.
He's just
Future
getting his
episode.
paycheck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
respect
that. Put in a work
I
a
bet
day.
he reused some of the fucking ood from Black Hawk Down.
My man is making content.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Incidentally, do you know who else saw this movie and liked it? Was
Ooh, go on.
Me?
you, but
I
also
liked it.
Ahmed Chalabi,
Oh my
alias Curveball, the CIA asset who was
Yeah, the
leaned on
rightful president of Iraq.
to provide intelligence for the invasion of Iraq, because one of the reports that he gave the CIA was a
I'm so glad
description
you brought this one up.
was a description of Iraqi chemical weapons laboratories which were lifted wholesale from the previous 2 scenes that we've been discussing of the movie The Rock.
I've been desperately trying
Oh
throughout
my
the course
God.
of this podcast so far to find the direct quotes from him regarding this, because he fully just describes like the elegant string of pearls.
The elegant
thing.
string of pearls. Yes.
These are the chemical weapons facilities that we went to war over that didn't exist,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, these
Yes,
are the ones
yes.
that got Britain into the Iraq War.
That don't exist, that are fictional.
No, not real.
He specifically mentioned the like glass, like round glass storage of these, which is a way you would never store any chemical weapon It's never been done. It's pure invention. It looked more compelling for the movie, and he regurgitated that, and the CIA, because they wanted to, bought that intelligence, both financially and also in terms of belief.
Please tell me this man is in prison or something. Please tell me he fell into wet cement and
Abigail Thorne,
slipped on a banana and shit himself or something, please.
I mean...
No. He is dead. He died in Iraq in 2015, but...
Of what?
Mm-hmm. Heart attack. They shot him with a heart attack gun.
Normal reasons, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, and we invaded Iraq, which led to some problems. Yes, so we've seen
the podcast Blowback season 1.
Yeah, do that. Nicolas Cage is shirtless playing the guitar
first and then...
when his girlfriend comes in, and the thing about his girlfriend is that she's Catholic, and the other thing about his girlfriend is that she's pregnant.
I understand these two things don't go well together.
Yeah, you know she's Catholic because she's wearing a big rosary around her neck. Mm-hmm. And she's pregnant by Nicolas Cage, even as Nicolas Cage is in sort of like a Children of Men type situation where he's so dispirited by this Serbian terror attack that he's I think he's on his first reform shit. He literally goes, I think it would be cruel to bring a child into this world. And she's like, oh, by the way, I'm pregnant. And also 9/11 hasn't happened yet. So you think it's bad now.
There is quite a cute moment where he's like, that's great. I'm glad you're pregnant. And she says, 8 seconds ago, you said it would be cruel to bring a child into this world. And he says, well, kind of a lot's happened since then.
Yeah, that was good. I like that a lot.
That's a cute line.
Yeah, he just kind of gets owned by his girlfriend. And meanwhile, we see Ed Harris and the boys infiltrate The Rock, which we know is a national parks operated tourist site now. And so we get a little bit of comic relief as they take the tour.
Alcatraz,
and then
baby. You do get a nice shot where Ed tells there's also a school trip there, and he very specifically is like, you guys need to get on the fucking boat and leave. Because he knows he's going to take all these guys hostage, and he doesn't want to do it to kids, which is nice.
Yeah,
he is.
And
he is very conflicted.
He takes everybody hostage, and they seize the island. They immediately start dressing in the most fucked camouflage I've ever seen. This sort of white and grey urban pattern.
That's British. That's British camouflage. Evil. British paratrooper camouflage. Just standing against the sky.
Yeah. Absolutely. But Ed Harris does. He really carries this movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Hated working with Michael Bay because he wouldn't let him act.
Yeah, Michael Bay kept doing close-up shots, and Ed likes to act with his whole body.
Yeah,
so
but he
was just
he did
push the fucking camera back a little so I can work, man.
I talked a little bit about general officers on screen with Hell of a Way to Die, about the movie In the Loop, and Ed Harris does a very good general officer. He talks in these kind of entirely declarative sentences. And so he gathers his men together and he announces the purpose of what they're doing, which is they're going to hold the US government hostage if they don't give $100 million out of a military slush fund for illegal operations to help compensate the men who they abandoned in the field. Then they're going to fire the nerve gas rockets.
Yes, respect the troops, or we are going to kill everyone in San Francisco with the rockets.
Yes,
and we see them setting up all kinds of stuff around Alcatraz to stop anyone getting in. There's a funny line where they say possible penetration point in the shower room, which I wrote down, and they put a bunch of laser tripwires and stuff down.
Funny way to say it though.
And he says. Yeah, he says, all of you men will be paid $1 million each for your services, but at the end of this, you'll all get on a plane to go to a non-extradition country. And he calls the director of the FBI, and he's just like, I'm Brigadier General this person, and you're going to do this and this and this, and who do from Alcatraz, over and out, ka-ching.
He doesn't actually say who do from Alcatraz.
Well, it kind of does. What's nice is that everyone in the high command of the United States is fuck, it's this guy.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, he's really good.
Everybody immediately
Also, we
knows.
get a little bit of ideology. Yeah, because he talks about what the purpose of special forces is in a kind of Smedley Butler sort of way, because he says
the men of Marine Force Recon are selected to carry out illegal operations throughout the world.
highly illegal special operations.
Dramatic building music. These men do illegal things.
At no point does anyone say maybe they shouldn't?
No, of course not. For the same reason nobody says America shouldn't have a shitload of VX gas and missiles. It's just there. But yeah, no, it's weird to pick Force Recon for this. It's weird to pick the Marines for this. But otherwise, the idea of like special operations being something that you do when you don't want people to find out about it, it's like, yeah, that's true. The only weird part is that like all of these guys volunteered for that shit. They know that like part and parcel of the deal is like you get to be an unsung kind of hero or whatever. But anyway.
We see that the White House or like senior government people are meeting to talk about this. And they say that the problem is they would just ordinarily just like napalm Alcatraz, but VX gas is specifically immune to napalm.
No, it's not.
Well, it is in this.
It's not, but it is within the fiction of the movie.
They also estimate that he could kill 1 million people with the amount of VX gas that he has. And my notes say, surely the US government would never allow almost 1 million people to die from a biological agent just through inaction. It's absolutely unimaginable. But yeah, they think maybe some kind of like thermite. They might be able to rig some sort of thermite explosion
plasma,
thing.
Yeah,
but it's going to take ages.
Thing.
So
also,
in the meantime, we need a chemical weapons guy to go in and fix this.
Do you want to know something funny? The US government has literally sprayed airborne chemical agents on San Francisco before itself on purpose. Literally as part of a test against like biological weapons and chemical weapons. They sprayed a series of like bits of the Bay Area. They also like broke light bulbs full of attenuated anthrax in the New York City subway to see how that spread, and that killed a few people.
Just to see what had happened, just to fuck around and find out.
Back in the 60s and 70s, if you're in the CIA, you could just kind of like smear nerve gas on whatever you wanted.
You could basically get away with anything. Like this was the
I'm
time
just
when
gonna
they were
shoot
still
a
doing,
guy
like,
at random with the LSD gun.
we reckon we could give soldiers psychic powers by dosing them hard enough with LSD. Like you could just get away with whatever the fuck you want.
Just turned a whole regiment trans with the trans ray gun.
If you were in the US Army at any point
KGB
between the
origins.
years of about 1960 and 1970, your superior officer was actually a big carved lump of uranium as part of a like army experiment to see how many
Vault
different
Tech
kinds of cancer they could give you at once. But like they're discussing this, right? And then Ed Harris calls them. He like calls the Situation Room on his video phone. He like calls in on Skype. And in order to make the point that you know who's cool is the troops, and you know who's fucking gay is not troops, because he calls them and he talks to the like general who's in charge, like they're old friends. And the White House chief of staff says like, well, have you considered maybe not firing VX gas at San Francisco? And he literally goes, who's this fucking pussy?
Who's this guy?
This
Shut up,
fucking
loser.
dipshit. Shut up, idiot. If you were smart, you'd be a Marine like me.
Because remember, kids, part of respecting the troops is ensuring that they do not have democratic oversight.
Absolutely. He's too young and he's too immature. So, yes, as you say, Abigail, Nicolas Cage has to go to San Francisco. And the other thing...
I've just written down 100 million is probably quite eminently payable. You could just, like, I'm sure that they've clocked in more than that in overtime over the course of this movie. They could
absolutely.
Just give them that. It's fine.
Just give them. Anyway, the other thing about this movie is that women are stupid, because Nicolas Cage gets the call to go to San Francisco, and he goes, but his girlfriend is mad at him because she's, I don't know, women are stupid.
She doesn't want to be left behind because he's agreed to marry her. So she's like, come on, let's go get married and like start a honeymoon like now. This conversation is happening whilst he is like inside her, by the way.
She proposed. She proposed. It was very progressive for 1996 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was good.
And he was like, "Oh, sure, okay."
He agrees, and he's just like, "Fine, whatever."
Go on then.
And after he goes to San Francisco, he finds out that she has followed him there and will not be dissuaded.
He tells her to come. He's like, they want me to go to San Francisco. I'm sure it's a training exercise. Like, come with me. I'll be finished in a few days, and then we'll like get married and have a honeymoon in San Francisco.
Yeah.
He's on the phone. He's like, all right, I'll be down in 10 minutes. And his wife, who is currently like fully on top of him, looks at him and I've written down, make that 12 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll be right there.
So he goes to San Francisco where the FBI have set up their command post. And they have a bunch of Navy SEALs who are preparing to like raid Alcatraz with him, take him with them, disarm all of the things without a shot being fired. That's the plan. And what he does then is immediately throws up in the sink, which I did quite like. It's just like, no, the thing about me is I'm a giant pussy and I don't want to do this.
Well, we haven't quite gotten there. We haven't quite gotten to that stage yet because they realize that they need to get into Alcatraz, but they're going to have to go in from underground. And Alcatraz is like a whole
point.
In the shower rooms. Alcatraz is a whole mess of tunnels, and only one man has ever escaped from Alcatraz. This isn't officially known.
Bond.
It's James Bond.
It's James Bond. Because
He
the thing about this
escaped from
is,
Alcatraz 30 years ago. He doesn't officially exist. He's the only one ever to escape, and he's been in jail for 30 years.
yes,
He's a British spy.
He's a British
James.
spy, and his name is
Bond.
James Bond. And the thing is, right, at this point, I developed what I like to call the grand unified theory of Bonds. Because my theory is this.
The grand
Yeah,
unified
we
theory
did.
of
We
Bond.
developed it together. We did. And what we came up with is Sean Connery is James Bond. He is then imprisoned by the Americans for Bond crimes. George
Could be any number
Lazenby
of things.
George Lazenby takes over. George Lazenby is exiled to Hong Kong, and Roger Moore takes over. Roger Moore drowns in San Francisco Harbor at the end of Cannonball Run, allowing Timothy Dalton to take over.
Okay.
Timothy Dalton retires to manage a rural English supermarket, and Pierce Brosnan takes over. Pierce Brosnan is still in a fucking North Korean prison camp.
Yeah, he's still in the Pussy Mind Palace.
In the Pussy Mind Palace.
Which looks like the events of Mamma Mia.
Yeah, and
Yes.
Craig takes over. And so every other movie that these guys have been in, the butterfly dreams of the existence of the sage. In the Pussy Mind Palace in North Korea, Pierce Brosnan Bond is dreaming the events of Mamma Mia and the Thomas Crown affair.
He's just
Okay,
like huddled
alright.
in a corner singing ABBA to himself in a cell.
Yes. Sean Connery Bond is in fucking federal
Alice.
prison going,
Alice.
what if I spoke Japanese?
This is extremely Pepe Sylvia.
What if I was a detective and I spoke Japanese?
This is a grand unified theory.
What if
of
I was
movies.
a senpai?
You're just-
Yes, all movies exist
just
within the
solved
lifespan of these men who are all James Bond.
Nope.
Anyway, Sean Connery Bond
That's
has
season
been
2,
in
baby.
prison for 30 years. He's the only one who can get them in. So they drag him into a cell, and he's got like long hair, and he's all haggard. And
Yeah.
they say, are you going to help
James
us out?
Bond.
And he's like, get fucked.
He's like, probably not. No, I have been in the prison for 30 years.
Get wrecked.
I'm gonna need about 50 different things. I'm gonna need like a penthouse, a full pardon, like I need my dick sucked. I need like some steak and potatoes. And Nicolas Cage, because he's a pussy and he's not a real FBI agent, gives him all of this shit, and he gives him a pardon to sign. But as soon as he goes back in the other room, the director of the FBI tears up that pardon in front of me. He's like, no, he's too dangerous to ever be released.
At which point Connery like uses a quarter that another agent had like flipped him as a joke. He uses that to like break the two-way mirror and like sees the FBI director and is like, Womack, you piece of shit. And like,
Womack is such a fucking like bad guy in a 90s action movie name.
You know how you can cut through glass with a coin? You know how that works?
Yeah, easily, seamlessly so.
Apparently, Nicolas Cage insisted, like after coming into the movie, that he play Goodspeed as like a really straight arrow. Like he wanted him to be a really good guy. So he argued with Michael Bay and said, "No, I don't want him to swear." And so like
that's why he says like "gee whiz."
he said, like like knowing that now, I was noticing anew all these things. Like when he first rolls up in that hangar and he goes, "Neat plane." Which
It's so good.
which I
Hey,
love.
cool plane.
Wow.
it's kind of
Wow.
nice. It's a nice
Actually,
decision.
we get a
like.
wow out of him.
He gets a wow. And then when they say go in there and tell him that he can have a pardon, and everything. And he goes, oh, you know, we're going to pardon him. And they're like, no. And he says, you want me to lie? Me? And you want an FBI agent to lie? So there's all these points in this where like his character refuses to swear or is just like, I'm not gonna dog this guy. I'm not gonna dog the boys. Which he also does with
it's cute. It's good.
Neat plane. That cracked me up.
Neat plane. So he gives Sean Connery everything he wants, and Sean Connery gets to go to the penthouse where we get a fun little bit of homophobia because he gets a haircut, and in order to get a haircut, they have to let in a stylist.
Well, they're in San Francisco.
Who lets a dick fall out of his mouth before giving every fucking line. It's really embarrassing. It's not.
Actually,
it's
made
bad.
me feel bad. Like, even more than, like, Winton Kid did. This just makes me feel bad.
It's more homophobic because it's nasty.
Hairdresser.
Send in the gay hairdresser.
Because it's also, like, homophobia by way of misogyny, because, like, he's bad because he's effeminate.
I did have a note, which is Michael Bay loves funny black people and gays.
And absolutely.
Yeah.
He loves a comic relief black person. He loves that shit.
We've already like flown past two that we didn't mention. Like,
when they take Alcatraz over and they lock all of the tourists as hostages into the cells, the convenient cells, and immediately, basically all of the black tourists like go through the sassification process, and everybody gets very loud and mouthy.
Sassification.
And it's a huge recurring thing in all of Michael Bay's movies. Like, we get all the hallmarks here. We get the Hans Zimmer soundtrack. We get the rotating camera shot of Nicolas Cage as he stands up after a car chase. We have a Ferrari.
Because we're about to get the car chase.
Yeah.
What happens is Sean Connery dangles the director of the FBI. He like hostilely dangles him over the edge of this balcony, and then
he just gives him a little dangle. It's fine. It doesn't even look like he's that high up, all things considered.
Yeah, and then he escapes out of the hotel. The FBI try to chase him. They're shit at it, and giant pussy, not really FBI agent Nicolas Cage steals a yellow Ferrari and gives chase to him through the streets of San Francisco.
This is very badly edited. There's a lot of like extreme close-ups and crash zooms and steady
Michael Bay's patented way too many cuts style really shines through here because you can't see shit of what's happening.
And Bond is doing Bond one-liners. He's like crushing people's cars with a
hope
Humvee. He's like, I hope you're
insurance.
insured. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, I wrote, this is a lot like the last time I had a car chase in San Francisco.
When I was the same guy.
And when I had just fucked Dianne Feinstein.
Exactly. After that, so Nicolas Cage works out where he's going because while he was in federal prison with no name in the fucking Man with the Iron Mask, he had his like fucking dependents listed in San Francisco. So he works out that's where he's going. He's just going to see his daughter. So Nicolas Cage finds him. And instead of arresting him because he's a straight arrow, because he's a good guy, he like goes up to his daughter and he's like, "Yeah, your dad's just helping us with an urgent, mission here."
It's cute.
It's like spares his feelings, and then immediately after having done so, he delivers the best and loudest line read.
What do you say we cut the chit chat, a-hole?
Because he doesn't swear.
What do you say? We cut the chit chat. A-hole.
It's like they're walking away and fucking Bond's just like, thank you for that, you didn't have to do that. And he's just like, I nearly died like 5 times. What the fuck is wrong with you?
A-hole. Okay, so a reluctant James Bond is dragged back into the fold, where they now plan the offensive with the SEALs, right? There's a Navy SEAL team who are going to deliver them.
That's right.
Like Sean Connery is going to guide them through the tunnels he escaped through, and then Nicolas Cage is going to disarm the fucking missiles.
And Bond has to go in person because he can't remember the route from the blueprints. He's like, I'm going to go to... And the FBI director's like, no way. And Bond's like, well, you're between the rock and a hard case.
Wow.
Nah, that was fine. I like that.
Also, the whole time they're doing this, they have them on like the radio, and they're calling the SEAL team the Eagles, which
so cool.
It amused me.
We have taken Hotel California.
So the Eagles breach into the penetration point in the shower room.
The thing about Alcatraz is that underneath it, there's a sort of House of Leaves style unending labyrinth.
Yes.
With just
It's got
just
mine carts in it.
like death machines and like fire.
It has like an
breathing
old
thing.
Spanish mine. Yeah, it's for
My
no
God.
fucking reason.
there are massive cogs that just don't seem to be attached to anything.
Indiana
It's
Jones is that?
perfect.
It's like the underside of Jumanji.
Yeah. So So the seals breach into the penetration point and are immediately detected and owned. And what happens then is they get this sort of like thing where if you're in the army, right, you communicate entirely through yelling. So Hummel yells at the leader of the SEALs to like stand down, and the SEAL team leader yells back, and this continues for a good couple of minutes until they're just doing this.
Do not give that order! I am not going to repeat that order! I will not give that order! What the hell is wrong with you, man?
This goes on for so
keeps going.
long.
It's a really long scene.
I
like
invited
this.
too many tops to the party.
I like this scene so much because it's really apparent in this that Hummel is bluffing the whole way through.
Yes.
Because
because he's a
doesn't wanna
good
kill-
guy.
His whole thing is here because Marines keep getting killed. He doesn't want to kill more of them.
No, and when they do get killed, it's by accident, so he's a good guy. Like somebody like knocks over a rock or something and everybody starts shooting, and it grieves him. And he blames the government for like sending them in the first place and making him kill
There's
them.
like
which is-
so much slow motion and like sad trumpets, and it was
also-
like, oh no.
Everyone's so
This is
wet.
also the scene where it starts to become clear.
I summarized the next 40 minutes of this movie with a single note, which is lots of silly bullshit happens.
Because everyone
essentially-
except
this is-
Cage and Bond dies.
This scene is also the one where it starts to become apparent that his men are a lot more into this than he is.
Yes. They're like, oh fuck yeah, kill him, and meanwhile he's like sort of craggly faced and austere. So what happens is that his men chase them around the like Pan's Labyrinth under Alcatraz, and the whole time Sean Connery is trying to get out because he wants no part in this. And Nicolas Cage is trying to like pull him back in and like cajole him. He saves his life at one point, and it's just fine, whatever.
It's sort of your Aliens moment, right? All the Marines are dead, and you've just got Ripley, Connery,
Yeah.
Newt, I guess.
Sean Connery crushes a man's head with an air conditioner.
Chill
We
out.
also learn a little bit about why he was in prison.
Yeah, for Bond crimes.
Yeah.
He was in prison because he has a shitload of microfilm exposing aliens at Roswell, who really killed JFK, all of the shit that the US government wants to hide. And
Everything. He's just got...
It's
he also
everything.
That's why he's in prison, is because he stole the microfilm on which
and
they
it's-
keep all of the secrets.
Yeah, and it's hidden, and he won't give it up, because if he gives it up, they'll Epstein him, they'll suicide him in prison.
Yeah.
So he's been held without trial for 30 years.
Yes. By Womack, particularly, which is why he's mad at him. So they get chased around the fucking island. Nicolas Cage disarms some of the missiles. It's always really precarious because he has to maneuver around the like elegant string of pearls. Meanwhile, the deadline is getting closer, and the Air Force are finally like ready to go with this thermite plasma thing to just incinerate all of Alcatraz. As the deadline comes, they use a hostage to coerce Sean Connery into like giving himself up. Where he just like debates the guy.
Yeah, he
this is
debates
fun.
him in the mind dojo with facts and logic.
He enters the mind dojo and he goes, patriotism is bad. And he punches him and he goes, thank you for making my point.
Yeah, kind of ironic for this film to be like patriotism is the virtue of the vicious. Yeah.
Excellent use of the knee in my fucking head fallacy. Fantastic use of the like breaking all of my teeth fallacy.
He thinks you have beseeched me with this ad hominem, sir. Meanwhile, he's getting the shit kicked out of him.
Yes. Fucking
They disable all but 2 of the rockets, basically.
all but 2 of the rockets. The fucking deadline comes and goes. And in order not to like blink, being pressured by his men, Ed Harris fires one of the missiles at a football game.
The
But then
gas is just slowly becoming less potent because the first time they're disarming a missile, like Tight Pussy picks it up, fucking like gives it over to Bond, who holds it very still, and then in the next one he's just doing it like on his own, And he
just like
frees up
throwing
both
them
hands,
around.
which I can
He's
only
like
imagine
juggling
means he
with
just
them.
put it down.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So yeah, he fires one missile and then like aborts it at the last second, as if to like fake out the government. This does not work. And his men get very mad at him for looking weak or incompetent.
Dude, you didn't kill
And some
70,000
tension starts
people.
to
You
build.
look like a pussy right now.
pussy.
Yeah, what are you, gay or
You
something?
Like Connor even has a line where he gets back to Cage and is just like, yeah, he's not going to do it. I've seen his eyes.
Yeah,
Not the
he's
eyes
a
of a
pussy.
killer.
He's bitch made.
We see that Cage and Bond get locked in the cells at Alcatraz, and like Bond escapes because, of course, he has escaped Alcatraz before.
Yeah,
So he just does the same thing
Easily, it
again.
takes him like 5 minutes.
Not even a worthwhile point to put in. So there's one missile left now, and at this point, the sort of like everybody but Ed Harris and his second in command, Major Baxter, are like, wait a second, we're not getting that $1 million, are we? And he tries to fucking go all like Coriolanus on them. He's like, wait a second, you're still like soldiers and Marines. And they point out quite reasonably, hey, we just like killed a shitload of Navy SEAls. We're pretty certain that makes us mercenaries now. And the thing about mercenaries is mercenaries get fucking paid. Yeah. So
his two captains are becoming very, very bloodthirsty.
How they
Curiously-
think they're gonna get paid is really the big question here, because like it's
Curiously-
not like Ed has the money and he's just holding out on them. If they take over operations, they've just got one missile and a shitload of incoming napalm.
The group that betrays him also curiously contains every black Marine there. Not sure what's up with that. Well, interesting. Anyway. They kill Ed Harris, who, as he is dying, is like, what have I done? Comes to his senses. Tells Nicolas Cage where the last missile is. Nicolas Cage has to disarm it against the clock while the Air Force are about to bomb the place. And at this point, I wrote down, I love the ending of No Time to Die.
Yeah. So there's an interesting scene a little bit earlier where they decide to give the airstrike. And we see the president of the United States make this decision. And then it's a kind of a weighty decision because, 82 civilians and a bunch of Marines are going to die. And the president gives this speech about how, like, you should respect the troops and, like, this is really bad. And when soldiers are ignored and marginalized, it's really bad. And my notes say, like, as somebody who, even with relative privilege in my country, is actually marginalized and who is, like, as somebody who is being illegally denied healthcare by my own country, I find these sentiments extremely hollow, and my notes say patriotism has become a foreign country to me. I don't understand.
Just sort of going through it here.
Yeah, like these people's like love of their country. I'm just like,
Just like, what?
I remember when I used to
what,
feel
dude?
like that, and now my country has decided to make an enemy of me and my friends. So like, get fucked.
So what we're saying
the
essentially is
same-
that we have 16 VX gas missiles,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
we will be.
We will be firing them at the gender
we're all
identity
wearing
clinic.
that sick ass camouflage. The other thing is, as you
Demand
mentioned,
100 million estrogen pills.
the VX gas gets way less deadly. So
Take
like
them all
at
at
the,
once.
at the end, Nicolas Cage kills like the last mercenary guy by pushing one of those like glass vials into his mouth.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. Okay, so when he's doing the last missile, right? When he's disarming his last missile, he takes out the V8, and the biggest, blackest Marine, who is also the baddest guy, interesting, walks in, and he's like got a knife, and Nick's holding the fucking VX gas, and he goes, do you not know how this works? And the guy holding a knife signals with the knife and goes, do you not know how this works?
That's
I'm like,
cute.
I don't know, I
got
think
his ass.
he's got you beat, man. I don't...
Defeated with facts and logic, Marine Todd wins again.
There's a lot
And
of like
then
sexual taunting from the Marines as well. which
again,
is
the
weird.
weird homophobia.
Yeah.
There's a prison rape joke that Sean Connery makes where he's like, oh, I don't want to go back to prison because I have to fucking watch out in the showers. Although not so much now that I'm old because I've lost my sex appeal. And it's like,
Is that what he said? I'll be honest with you, I
yeah.
missed a lot of Connery lines because I was watching this and it didn't have subtitles and I just couldn't understand what was being said a lot of the time.
Just 'cause he's
things don't
Scottish.
react well to
Yeah,
bollocks.
it's because he's Scottish and I'm racist towards them.
He's just like daydreaming. At one point, he makes a perfect soy face, which is going to be the episode art.
Yes, he does. But the way
He says,
this Marine who has the knife,
He's like waving it. Yeah.
the way this Marine who has the knife goes out is so needlessly brutal.
Yeah, he like fires the rocket at him and it knocks him out of the window into San Francisco Bay.
It's like this guy goes out like he's been the primary antagonist for 2 hours of screen time instead of like 10
After
minutes.
a bizarre Elton John themed quip about the song Rocket Man.
He's impaled on a fence.
Yeah. It's
Viciously,
gruesome.
yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of like sort of extreme violence in here. Like Sean Connery like fucking throws a knife into a dude's forehead. Yeah. Anyway, so
then delivers a line that I didn't hear.
Someone fist fights Sean Connery and calls him an English prick, which is funny.
This is funny.
That's
Nicolas
fun.
Cage disarms the last bomb, but it's too late. The fucking Air Force are about to bomb the place.
The English prick line is so fucking good because he's fighting Sean Connery. He's like, my parents are from Ireland. The English prick. And I'm like, yeah. Okay.
Nicolas Cage jabs himself in the thigh with the atropine, or the chest, the heart with the atropine, so that he doesn't die of VX gas poisoning, and he calls off the fucking airstrike with a flare at just the last second.
And he swears at one of the Marines to show character growth.
Yes, yeah, he's based now.
Mhm.
The FBI come in, rescue all of the hostages. He tells them that James Bond is dead, allowing him to like get his freedom. Meanwhile, James Bond tells him where the microfilm is.
Yeah, which is fucked up. Like, you do not want to know where that microfilm is.
Yeah, literally, he goes and gets it in the last scene, and it's played for laughs. He looks at it and he's like, hey, do you want to know who really killed JFK?
The Dinkster, we've established this.
Yeah, the Dinkster with a sniper rifle from the Taltex building. And that's the
What's
movie.
on that microfilm is just like, no, it legitimately just was.
Yeah.
It's the microfilm from Russia with Love. We've come full circle, and it's just him fucking. It's the film that Rosa
Yo, do you want to know who killed? Do you want to know who killed James Bond? Well, I do too. But this is a series of stills of fucking Sean Connery like having sex with a Russian woman.
Tatiana.
And that's the movie, The Rock. It's very insubstantial, is the thing.
Yeah, well, that's because you're not a truth, so maybe you don't get it.
Yeah,
that's true, because I'm a pussy. Because I'm a fucking civilian. What can we say about this movie? Anything? Bueller?
I mean, it is fun. I enjoyed watching it. It's very silly. It did make me feel like quite bitter at certain points in that it kind of presents patriotism as being something that is accessible to everyone. And it's like, actually, some of us cannot love our country because our country does not love us back.
It's the most normal Michael Bay movie, which is it's still not good on that score.
I had a good time with it. It was nice to watch a good bad movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of like instead of just like bad movies, which is what we've been doing for our entire fucking podcast runtime.
Yeah,
and it is a Bond movie. Like, it is.
Yeah, it is, and it gave us the grand unified theory of Bond.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm grateful to it for that. With my giant conspiracy
fan art of Alice
wall.
with a massive like Pepe Sylvia wall. It's being like, it makes sense.
Yes, someone draw that of me, please.
The reason why he's called John Mason in this instead of James Bond is because they gave his name to the next guy.
Yeah, exactly. That's why George Lazenby is named what he's named in The Man from Hong Kong instead of James Bond. Listen,
it's never happened to the other guy.
We have 2 science-based systems on this podcast.
Yes.
We had the Scum system for Bond movies, and this is a Bond movie. However, as we transition out of the Bond era, as we transition our genders away from James Bond, we start to think that maybe a different science-based rating system is needed. So, Abigail, would you care to introduce science-based rating system number 2?
Yes, I've been in the Kill James Bond lab with our various wigglers and flasks and lasers, and I have developed the science-based system. We call it the girth system, and we are going to, because we are looking at assigned movies at birth, movies that tell us something about masculinity. We're going to rate how insecure these films are out of 007. In the category, how insecure are they about glory, intellectualism, respecting the troops, and heterosexuality.
GIRTH, yeah.
We're testing it out.
Checks out.
So
We're ironing systems out. It's
So
early days.
how insecure is this film about glory and glory seeking?
I mean, it's 7. That's absolutely the point of it. We should do more glory, and also, like, if you die doing illegal things like invading China during the Vietnam War, you should still be allowed to have glory, even though you've like given it up. Yeah, 7.
Yeah, definitely. Intellectualism.
I think this is low because Sean Connery is portrayed as a badass, despite the fact that he quotes Oscar Wilde and reads Sun Tzu.
But he reads, it's specifically Sun Tzu. So you're allowed to be an intellectual as long as it is in service of war.
No, there's Shakespeare in there too.
True.
He even has a line where he's talking about being in prison. He's just like, these days I probably would have liked to be a philosopher instead.
Yeah, no, I think it's
worse.
low on the anti-intellectualism. I'd say this could be like a 2 even.
Fair enough. I think I know respecting the troops.
7.
Yeah,
That's
max
a 7.
out respecting the troops ASAP.
And how concerned is this film about heterosexuality? We do have that homophobia, but it could have been more misogynist. There are 4 speaking women characters, of whom only 1 is really a character.
Yeah, and her primary character trait is being
Marriage.
pregnant.
And I want to get married. Yeah.
It's sort of middling, isn't it? I'd say maybe like a 4.
3? Okay.
3 or 4? Yeah. Okay. Well, we have nothing to compare this to, but nonetheless, what is the result? What is the average? What is the girth movie of this movie?
This movie's girth is 19.
That's a wide-ass movie.
We'll see. We'll see how girthy future movies get.
Good.
Do you want to do a Kronstein and Goodnight for this? Why not? It's a mainline episode.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course, it's a Bond movie.
What are we thinking about for our
Which
Kronsteins?
bad guy goes above and beyond for the cause of villainy?
I mean, listen, the knife guy who's like, yeah, you may have a vial of nerve gas, but I have a knife.
I respect
he is
that
the
guy
Mr.
with all of my
Surname.
soul.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Knife.
Yeah. No.
Mr. Knife. What about the Goodnight Cross? What about an underappreciated good character? Obviously, it can't be fucking like Christmas tit pussy or whatever because he fucks up everything.
Give it to the
yelling
hairdresser.
Navy SEAL guy. No, the hairdresser. You're right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Hairdresser.
Hell yeah.
Hairdresser. Sorry, stylist.
Of course. Of course.
Well, this has been a somewhat rushed due to time, but very complete Kill James Bond on the subject of The Rock. Andrew, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
If the people want more Andrew in their life, where can the people get more Andrew?
Start corresponding with me privately via mail, and
if you want to just read your address,
Got a PO box.
oh, we should get a PO box. People have been asking for a while. You can listen to
you should get a PO box.
Got a PO box.
You can listen to Boonta Vista. That's BOONTA. Boonta Vista. Go to boontavista.com and find the show.
It's a little pun on the album Buena Vista Social Club.
It's a little bit like that. And Boonta being
is that why it's called?
Boonta being a South Australian expression for going a bit apeshit. There you go. But yeah, if you would like to hear,
I never knew that. I'll be honest. been listening to Boonta Vista since at least episode 100.
Well,
no idea what it was. What the fun of a name was.
It's not a thing that we're addressing on a
hanging
regular
out.
basis or anything. If you would like to hear the least relevant news that you're going to hear all week discussed by people who don't really know anything about it, tune into Boonta Vista.
Yeah, do that. And subscribe to us. You get bonus episodes. Subscribe to Boonta Vista. Follow Andrew on Twitter at Illybotion.
Links to all of this will, of course, be in the description.
Follow all of us on Twitter. And also, ask me about my grand unified theory of bonds, because I will talk about it for several hours to anyone, prompted or unprompted. We will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to yet another episode of Kill James Bond. Links to all of Andrew's various ventures will, of course, be in the description. Bit of a short episode this week. We bumped up against someone else who had booked the recording studio, so what can you do? Kill James Bond will return in 2 weeks' time for a whole new guy, Casino Royale. So stay tuned. But if that is simply too long for you to wait, we do have a Patreon where we'll be uploading an episode in 1 week, Mamma Mia 2. Speaking, of course, of our beautiful patrons, we would be nothing without our £15 and above patrons, and those are... Wait a second. Forks Winchester, Jack Holmes, Paint McCullough, George Rohack, Thomas Oberhart, Sol, Pratek, British Pterodactyl, Nikki, Phil West Music, Carolyn Tankersley, Amber DeGrazia. The Patreon Demon asks you to yell in solidarity with Rain as they attempt to survive the holidays at the Postal Service. You're on thin ice with that name, but I do hope you survive the holidays at the Postal Service. Ben O'Rice, Amanda Rogda, Max Gamenhart, Kit Devine, Sydney Steckel, Dread Pirate Robin, Hell Bloodhands, Kentucky Fried Commie, Jay Martindale, Jack Bushell, Top O, Field Commissar Jen Jen, Big Titty Goth Girl, Mothman, Timothy Pajorni, Trip, Charlie in the Closet, Elizabeth Cox, Zoe Shepherd, Finn Ross, Avery Darling, Alfredo, Al Irwing, Ray O'Leal, David Wickramaratna, James Knapman, Richard Drum, Millie, Robbie Morgan, Bon LeBon, Josh Simmons, Penny Banks, and Wolfie. Thank you for your support. Kill James Bond. Alice Abigail Devon. Producer is Nate Bethay. The podcast art is by Maddie Lubchansky, and our website is by Tom Allen. See ya.